Hi, this is John from MJG Education. Today's presentation on the PTE Academic is about Describe Image. This presentation will discuss test instructions, test procedure, things that you should know to make you more test-wise, 4 examples with possible responses, and a conclusionary comment as a reminder. Test instructions for Describe Image. We'll say, look at the graph below. In 25 seconds, please speak into the microphone and describe in detail what the graph is showing. You will have 40 seconds to give your response. You will have to develop your own test procedure. Usually, and always, it's just 5 sentences. The key to doing really well in Describe Image is to always speak 5 sentences. You memorize the pattern because you're going to do a lot of these. You're going to probably do 6 or 7 of these on the test. So you have to do it the same way every time. Again, what I'm going to get to later, it's all about fluency. You have to have content, maybe 1 content word in each sentence. We hope that your pronunciation's good, but like Retail Lecture, this is all about fluency, fluency, fluency. Okay, so one way to develop your test procedure, like a paragraph, you have an introduction and a conclusion, okay? And the body makes up the middle part of your procedure. So here, the introduction, you always have to say the name of the type of graph. You can use a verb like signifies or represents. With the line graphs and the bar graphs, usually 100% of the time, you're always going to have an x-axis. So you'll have to mention that as well. So for example, this graph you see on the right might sound like this. An introduction might be developed this way. This line graph represents wheat exports for 3 different regions from 1985 to 1990. That would be the first sentence of your procedure. The second sentence, you always have to describe a key feature, like the third one, another key feature, and the fourth sentence, another key feature. But the way you can organize it is you can use a superlative for the first sentence of your body. You can say the highest, the most, or the greatest, and then the opposite. You could use the lowest, the least, and the worst. And that's how you'd go about it. Any other third sentence to fill out your body would be helpful. You just have to speak a sentence. Now the key here too is not to speak too quickly. You just speak through it in a normal, regular tempo. You don't have to race. A lot of people think you have to race through this. The key is just fluency. The conclusion, you can always use a standard. Here we say, in conclusion, it can be predicted that the European community wheat exports will continue to increase in the future. The easiest way to write a conclusion is always just to use a prediction about the future. So it can be predicted. You can memorize most of it, but the thing you always have to remember when you develop your own test procedure, 5 sentences, speak it at a regular tempo, you'll always end up between 27 and 35 seconds. That's a 90 every time on the PTE. Things you should know for this part of the test is that you get 6 or 7 describe images. Okay, the scoring, as usual for speaking, is based on content, pronunciation, and fluency. Content includes just say at least 1 word from the graph in each of the 5 sentences that you say. Pronunciation will get better if you use the same procedure every time. So that's a big key. If you're using the same 5 sentences, or you know you're going to do an introduction, 3 body statements, and a conclusion, maybe use the same introduction words and the same words for the conclusion every time. This starts to become very easy. So that's the key. You use the same format, the same procedure every time, and you're going to do well. Finally, fluency. And of course it says fluency, fluency, fluency. If you do not hesitate, no ums or ahs, no big hesitation gaps of a second or 2, you're going to score really well on this test. Okay, and fluency is the most important, just like Retail Lecture on this part of the test. With a simple line graph, what you're always looking for is the high point, the low point. In the middle area, you'll have to say something else. So one possible response would be like this. Remember, always speak at an even tempo. Don't hesitate, don't pause, and you'll score really well. One possible response is like this. This line graph signifies wheat exports from 3 regions, Canada, Australia, and the European community from 1985 to 1990. The most wheat exported occurred in Canada in 1988. The least wheat exported was by Australia in 1989 and 1990. Wheat exports by the European community have increased since 1988. In conclusion, wheat exports for the European community will continue to increase in the future. That's all you have to do. If you read 5 sentences and you read at a normal pace, you'll never go over 40 seconds. Okay, so you want to keep it between 30 and 35, between 27 and 35 seconds. That's a great answer. Here's example 2. Notice with 3 pie charts or anything with numbers of 2 or 3, you can use the word respectively to keep things in order. Okay, here we go. These 3 pie charts represent water usage in residential, industrial, and agricultural areas of San Diego County, California, and the world respectively. Residential water is used the most in San Diego and California at 60 and 39% respectively. Water is used for agricultural purposes at 69% throughout the world. Industrial uses for water were highest in California at 33%. In conclusion, California shares its amount of water more equally. Sometimes with describe image, you're just going to get a picture. So you're going to have to keep speaking and you're going to have to be fluent. And this sort of proves that this task is all about fluency because there's no words for you to use. So the way we handle pictures is we talk about the foreground, the background, and the middle area in a picture. Okay, those become your body statements. You still will have to come up with an introductory statement about what you see and a conclusion. This possible response goes like this. This picture represents a landscape photo. In the foreground, I can see some trees and grass in front of a river. In the background, I can see low hills, more trees and flowers. In the middle area, I can see a pedestrian bridge across the river. This is a very picturesque view of a landscape. Finally, in example 4, you may get a process in describe image. What you generally do here, you're going to have your introduction as your first sentence, and then you have 3 or 4 sentences to work your way through the process. Something like this. This image signifies a recycling of clear glass fizzy drink bottles. First, the glass bottles are taken from the recycling station to be crushed. The glass is then heated and new bottles are created. Then, the bottles are filled with fizzy drink and purchased by the customers. Finally, the used bottles are collected and taken to the recycling station to start the process over again. In conclusion, as I mentioned too often, but it's very important, it's always about fluency. Okay, don't hesitate, no delays, speak at an even tempo, speak only 5 sentences, that's all you need. Have an introduction, 3 body sentences, and a conclusion, and a 90 is yours. That's all it is. I have to say, as always, it's a lot of practice. The PTE, it takes it out of you because of the demand of the algorithm. You have to perform for that algorithm. So by practicing, it takes all the stress out on the day of the test. When it pops up on your screen, you can handle it. If you have any questions with YouTube, you can provide them down there and I'll try and answer them if you like. We can help with tutorials or you can buy a textbook from us. Check us out. We're there at mjgeducation.com. Thank you, and again, please subscribe to this channel. You can follow MJG Education on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Tumblr. We'll be updating that constantly, as with our homepage. We specialize in tutorials for the time being, as our website is being developed. So, tutorials in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. We also do lots of mock tests that include feedback, oral feedback, if we do them through Zoom, and of course you'll get feedback in a written form as well. We like to emphasize too that we're a Canadian company. You can save 35% if you're dealing with companies that charge you in US dollars. By all means, come back and check us out. We'll save you a fortune. Anyways, thank you very much and have a nice day wherever you are.